always try to create. It was not the only incident. There was earlier on, there was what was called zero option, for which people lost their lives. Cuthbert Nguni was beaten by the system. He too died.
Yeah, but in this case,
I'm coming there. Yeah. Let me just conclude, my dear. Sure. What I wanted to say is that I am not telling this incident out of nostalgia. The incidents involved political players. This particular issue involves political players. In this particular case, it's even worse because the person who was raided at his house in Kablonga, just a few kilometers from the security of the Zaf airport, is supposed to be a militia, okay, who was taken and kidnapped, and the state denying and later admitted and later dumped on the street by the same security agents. They released him when they were denying to the rest of us that there was no abduction. In fact, I have my phone, I can show you. The state were sending messages through Zicta to all of us in the country, saying that there's no abduction, there's no this, there's no that, no word of any terrorism. These are just a bunch of hooligans who are trying to create trouble. And this candidate is then arrested the day after the voting. And this whole issue is exploded to show and create fear. And as a result, as I speak to you, my dear, so many people are in hiding. Not because they are guilty, but because they no longer trust that the state is going to protect their rights. They no longer trust that there is equity and fairness into the system. That the only thing that the state wants to do with a candidate who won, who was a competitor, is to shut all of us down.
So that is the motive, you feel?
I believe that that is the motive.
To
try and shut all of us up. And I have stated, and I stated it here.
But why would government want to shut you up?
But it is not government that wants to shut us up. It is not the government that wants to shut us up.
Who wants to shut you up? Yeah.
It is a competitor. I believe, this is my belief, and I say it.
And the competitor is using government?
Is using instruments of the state to make it possible. Okay? Now, let me give you an example. And I'm saying this. I want you to know, my dear, that I'm fully conscious of what I'm saying. I'm not making any accusations. I am trying to stick to the facts, but I am giving my beliefs. Our president, on the day he went on national TV, gave an address and brought up the issue of militias 4 times. 4 times. Okay? And when I was listening to the speech, I said to me, yes, clearly, this is exactly what we went through 30 years ago, to vilify us. And at that point, when he was making that statement, the state were still remaining mute about the death of a former MP. With his wife going everywhere, including to social media, to say my husband is missing. Nothing. Not even an apology, not even to say a life is lost. When we know for a fact that at that point that address was being made, the state was aware that there was someone who had been killed. President Munduwile, the night he was kidnapped and dumped somewhere by the state, and this is factual, you know, I'm not fabricating anything. When he was dumped by the state, on that night, was interviewed on I think on Emmanuel Mwamba and on several other international platforms. And he revealed to the public that my friend, my colleague, I saw him being shot in the chest twice. I'm quoting. For the state to remain mute and knowing that there is someone who is deceased in a government hospital or in a military hospital, okay, and remain mute and say that they could not have found out, because finally when the statement was made, they said that he was identified by the family. You cannot tell me that the state was unaware that if there is a deceased person and the person who they raided his house has clearly stated that it was so and so, that they would fail to establish who the person who was deceased. Now, this is not a normal thing, Catherine. And I cannot believe that this is the way in which we are going to handle the affairs of state in Zambia now. I cannot believe. I am shocked beyond belief, that this is the way we can treat each other as political players, and that people can then go on social media and make light of it. That the whole permanent secretary of information can go to the public and make light of it when a life has been lost. And then the IG, the president and others...
He wasn't aware of...
I do not believe that he was aware. And even if he was aware, let me give him the benefit of doubt that he was aware, that he was not aware. Where is the apology? A decent human being would have apologized by now to say, I was unaware. I am sorry I made light of this situation, because this is human life that we are dealing with. That man has a wife and children. If this is the way we are going to treat each other in this country, then we have no right, absolutely no right, to call ourselves a Christian nation. And by virtue of the fact that there are bishops out there, clergy out there, men of God, who are always quick to support sometimes the unacceptable behavior of the state, that over this matter, over life being lost, that they cannot go out there and say the manner in which this thing was done was not acceptable.
Perhaps they are, like your family, scared that if they said something, then their lives would be in danger. I mean...
So we will have a country where all of us are afraid to stand up for what is right. The person who we are claiming to be, Christ, did not fear in front of Pilate, or in front of the whole Roman Empire, or in front of the council of the Sanhedrin and others. He did not fear in the presence of power. And each one of us as human beings who claim to be leaders, whether it is leaders in a political party, or whether it is leaders in a church, or whether it is leaders in a civic organization, we have a responsibility to the whole of the country to be able to rise up when there is a crisis and when we know that there is something that